I'm Donald, I'm 81, and I've spent most of my life being careful about the wrong things. This channel is where I finally say what I should have said a long time ago. Please subscribe and share this with someone who might need to hear it. My name is Donald Ray Mercer, and I am 81 years old. My granddaughter set this camera up for me about 3 weeks ago. I've been walking past it every single day. Sometimes I'd stop and look at it. Then I'd find something else to do, something responsible, something that needed doing. Today I didn't walk away. I'm not entirely sure why today was different. Maybe it isn't. Maybe I'll watch this back and delete the whole thing. But I don't think so. I think today was the day because I'm running out of days where it doesn't matter. I want to talk about carefulness, not the useful kind, the other kind, the kind that looks like wisdom from the outside, but is something else entirely from the inside. I've spent most of my life being careful, and I want to talk about what that cost me, what I thought it was giving me, and what it was actually taking quietly over a very long time in ways I didn't notice until there wasn't much left to spend. I'm not here to teach anything. I want to be clear about that. I'm not wise in any useful way. I'm just old enough now to see the shape of my own life clearly, and honest enough, finally, to say what I see. I grew up in Harlan County, Kentucky, small town, coal country, the kind of place that teaches you early that life is hard and you don't complain about it, because complaining doesn't change the coal yard, and it doesn't change the weather, and it doesn't change much of anything. My father was a quiet man, not cold, just contained. He worked hard and he came home and he sat in his chair, and that was mostly the shape of him. I don't think I ever heard him say anything that cost him something to say. My mother kept the house and kept the peace. In our family, that required considerably more skill than the coal yard did. She managed everything, the practical things and the emotional things, with the same efficiency, quietly, without drawing attention to the effort. I watched both of them my whole childhood, and I learned that feelings were something you folded up and put away, that strength meant not needing things, that the best thing you could do for the people around you was to not burden them with whatever was happening inside you. I learned it so well that by the time I was 20, I didn't even notice I was doing it anymore. It had just become the way I moved through the world. I married a woman named Carol when I was 24, Carol Ann Mercer. She was steady and warm. She made me feel settled in the way that only genuinely grounded people can. She wasn't dramatic. She didn't need grand gestures, but she paid attention every single day in small and consistent ways. Carol paid attention to the people around her. We had 2 children, Thomas and Diane. Thomas lives in Portland now. Diane is 45 minutes from here, though I see her less than that distance would suggest is reasonable. That's not a complaint. That's just a fact. One I've thought about quite a bit. For most of my adult life, I did everything right. I want you to understand what I mean by that. I mean, I was careful about money, about what I said and to whom, about not causing trouble, not asking for too much, not wanting things that seemed out of reach. I was careful about appearances, about time, about not burdening people with whatever was happening inside me. I thought that was strength. Long pause. I genuinely believed for most of my life, that carefulness was a form of love, that protecting people from your needs and your wants and your grief was the responsible thing to do. I was wrong about that, but it took me until I was almost 80 to understand it, and by then, some of the people I would have told it to were already gone. Carol died 7 years ago, pancreatic cancer. It moves fast, that particular cancer. We had about 4 months between the diagnosis and the end. 4 months is both a long time and no time at all, depending on what you're trying to do with it. In those 4 months, I cooked for her. I drove her to every appointment. I organized her medications in those little plastic boxes, with the days of the week on the lids. I kept the house clean, because I had this feeling, this irrational but persistent feeling, that if the house was clean, then things were still manageable, still under some kind of control. I sat beside her and held her hand. We watched television programs that neither of us were really watching. I was careful with her, right up until the end, careful not to cry too much in front of her, careful not to say things that might make her feel the weight of what was happening, careful not to ask for what I needed from her, because she was the one who was dying, and it seemed unfair. And there are things I never said to her, things I kept folded up, that I didn't say because the moment never felt quite right, or because I was protecting her, or because I was protecting myself, or because I had spent 60 years practicing not saying the difficult things, and by then, I simply didn't know how. A few years after she passed, I started going through some of her things. One afternoon I found a box in the back of the closet that I didn't recognize. Inside it were letters, not love letters exactly, more like thoughts, things Carol had written down over the years on whatever paper was nearby. Some were on the backs of envelopes, some on actual stationery. Most of them weren't dated. She wrote about our early years, about the night Thomas was born, about a fight we had in 1987 that I barely remembered, and how it had stayed with her, and how she wished it had ended differently. She wrote about me, about small things she noticed, the way I always checked the locks twice before bed, the way I'd sit on the porch for long stretches without saying anything, and she never knew what I was thinking. She wrote that she sometimes wished I would tell her what was going on inside me. She wrote that she sometimes felt a long distance away from me, even when we were sitting in the same room. I sat on the floor of that closet for a very long time. She had wanted more from me, not more in a demanding way, more in the way that people want to be known by the people they love. And I had been so careful for 50 years, and I had thought it was strength. When Thomas was about 15, he went through a period where he was very withdrawn. I remember standing outside his bedroom door one evening. I could hear him moving around inside. I raised my hand to knock, and I didn't, because I didn't know what to say. If he told me something difficult, because I was afraid of doing it wrong. So I went back downstairs. I told myself I'd try again tomorrow. Tomorrow came and went, and whatever Thomas was carrying, he carried it somewhere I couldn't see, and we moved on. He's a good man now. He has a daughter of his own. We talk on the phone every couple of weeks, pleasant conversations, surface level. I love him enormously. I'm not sure he knows exactly how much. There was a trip I almost took when I was 53. A buddy of mine, Bill Haverford, was planning a fishing trip to Alaska. 2 weeks in the wilderness, a small charter, the whole thing. He asked if I wanted to come along. Something moved in me when Bill said it, something that didn't move very often. I went home and I thought about it for 2 weeks. I wrote down what it would cost. I thought about the time off work, whether it was practical, whether it was responsible, whether it was the kind of thing a man like me actually did. And I called Bill and I told him I didn't think I could make it work this time. He came back with photographs and a pocket knife he brought me as a gift. I still have it somewhere in the kitchen drawer. Never really used it, always saving it for a special occasion. That never quite arrived. I never went to Alaska. There's nothing wrong with the small life. I believe that. But there is a difference between a small life that you chose and a small life that happened to you while you were being careful.